I'm not the type to shout. I don't throw dishes. I don't send walls shaking with angry speeches or rip my shirt open in emotional chaos. That's not my language. I work in contracts, commercial property mostly. The world I live in is quiet, efficient, and ruthlessly detailed. So when I realized my wife was cheating on me, I didn't go off the rails. I just opened the folder. Let me rewind a little. My name's Tom Bennett. I'm 38, real estate attorney in Atlanta. I've always been methodical, predictable, some would say, the guy who never misses a quarterly report, who balances his checkbook to the cent, who files receipts in alphabetical order, not flashy, not wild, but solid. And I always thought that's what Claire liked about me. We met at a networking event back in 2014. She was everything I wasn't. Social, bold, witty, the kind of woman who could make a whole room lean in with one raised eyebrow. A startup coach with charisma to spare. She moved through life like a windstorm with great shoes. And me? I was the stable rock she said she'd never had before. 6 months in, she moved into my condo. A year later, we got married. And here's where it starts to get interesting. Before the wedding, Claire, not me, insisted we get a prenup. Not because I had more money. At the time, we were about equal financially, but she said, and I quote, "It's just smart business. You never know what life throws." I agreed. We went through the process together, both with our own lawyers. The final draft had all the usual clauses, separation of personal assets, who gets what in case of divorce. But Claire added one thing that stuck out even then. Clause 17.4. In the event of adultery, the offending party forfeits all claims to jointly acquired property, including but not limited to real estate, vehicles, investment accounts, and shared retirement funds. I asked her, half joking, "Expecting something?" She laughed. "No, but if I ever found out someone was lying to me like that, I'd want blood." Oh, Claire, I remembered that line almost 5 years later, when I started seeing signs. It didn't hit me all at once. It crept in like mold, quiet, slow, but unmistakable if you paid attention. At first, I told myself she was just stressed. Startups were collapsing left and right, and her client list was shrinking. She'd come home drained, wine in hand, kick her shoes off and just stare at the ceiling like she was somewhere else entirely. I gave her space, made dinner, cleaned up, didn't push. But then the little things started to add up. She stopped texting during the day. No "miss you," no check-ins. If I sent a message, I'd get one-word replies hours later. Her phone? Always face down now. And her laughter, that used to be this full, loud, unapologetic sound, became quieter, private, like it wasn't for me anymore. I noticed she started wearing perfume to casual coffee meetings. Not subtle either, the kind that lingers long after she's gone. She'd dress up to go to the gym, not in sweats, but fitted tops, makeup, even heels once. Still, I didn't jump to conclusions. I asked. One night, Thursday, I made her favorite, carbonara with pancetta and extra garlic. We sat down, and I said it gently. "Claire, is everything okay between us?" She didn't even look up from her plate. Why wouldn't it be? "I don't know. You've been distant, different. I just feel like there's something going on." She rolled her eyes and sighed. "Tom, not this again. You're being paranoid. Just because I'm tired or distracted doesn't mean I'm cheating." I hadn't said the word, not once. But she brought it up herself. I let it go. For the moment. A week later, I tried again. She came home late. Again. Hair curled, top too polished for just drinks with the girls. I was sitting on the couch, lights dimmed. She walked in, surprised I was still up. "Was it fun?" "What?" "Drinks, girls, whatever that was." She set her purse down a little too fast. "Why are you acting like this? You never used to be this insecure." That word, insecure. I almost laughed. I'd never been the jealous type. But suddenly, because I was asking why my wife kept coming home smelling like musk and cologne, I was the problem. I nodded slowly. "Okay." She looked relieved, like I'd accepted her version of the story. But I wasn't accepting anything. I was filing it, storing it. And that night, for the first time in our marriage, I didn't sleep beside her. I took a pillow, went to the guest room, and stared at the ceiling for hours. The next few weeks were a blur of suspicion and silence. Every question I asked turned into an argument. Every calm, "Can we talk?" got flipped into, "Why don't you trust me?" I didn't accuse. I didn't threaten. I just observed. And when I saw her getting into a rideshare one Saturday, after telling me she was going to yoga, wearing a red wrap dress and carrying a clutch, that's when I knew. I need to follow her. I drove across town to the studio she said she went to, the one in Decatur with the leafy yoga logo and incense in the lobby. I parked across the street in a shady spot near a laundromat and waited. My fingers drummed on the steering wheel as I watched women walk out of the yoga studio in loose clothes, ponytails bouncing, yoga mats slung over shoulders. It was normal, boring, exactly what Claire said she'd been doing. But she wasn't there, not in the first wave, not in the second. By 7:10, I started to think maybe I'd been wrong. Then at 7:15, I saw her, not coming out of the main entrance. She appeared from the side alley, the kind of place that leads to loading docks or back doors. She wasn't wearing workout clothes. She wore a dress that clung to her in ways yoga pants didn't. Her heels clicked on the pavement. Her hair was down and styled. Lip gloss, jewelry. She looked polished. Not post-yoga, not even close. Then he followed her out. A man. Maybe early 40s, tall, neat beard, wearing a charcoal coat and the kind of shoes you don't walk in for long. He said something that made her laugh, full-body laugh, head tilted back. And then, her hand touched his chest. It wasn't dramatic. No kiss, no groping. But it was the kind of touch you don't give a friend. It lingered. It meant something. They said goodbye. He walked down the alley. She pulled out her phone, adjusted her hair, and walked the opposite direction, toward her car. I stayed still, just sat there, feeling the air get colder inside the cab. Then I drove away. Quiet, careful, not angry, not heartbroken, just done. It wasn't suspicion anymore. It was confirmation. I waited for her to come home that night. I made tea, sat at the kitchen table like everything was fine. She walked in around 11:40 p.m., flushed and smiling. "Long class," she said, taking off her shoes. I just nodded. "Stretch good?" She blinked, caught off guard for a moment, then smiled. "Yeah, real good." That night when she fell asleep, I unlocked the fireproof safe in the closet. Prenuptial agreement, Claire Monroe and Thomas Bennett. Signed, October 17th, 2015. Clause 17.4. I reread it 3 times, memorized it again. Not out of anger, out of clarity, out of calm, sharpened intent. Because if she thought she was playing games, she had no idea who she was playing with. Once I knew for sure, once I saw her lie to my face without even flinching, something shifted in me. It wasn't rage, it wasn't heartbreak. It was the click of logic locking into place. That quiet internal moment when all the clues you've been lining up finally form a clear picture. I didn't need a confession. I needed documentation. So that's what I did. Over the next 3 weeks, I built a digital dossier. Her phone had once been synced to our home iMac. She'd disabled most of the features over time, or thought she had. But an old setting in messages was still active. Suddenly, I had access to a rolling feed of her texts from the last 30 days. It was all there. Carefully worded messages with a man named Mark. They weren't explicit. She was smarter than that. But the emotional intimacy was unmistakable. "I can't stop thinking about last Tuesday. It's like he's not even there anymore. Don't forget to bring that wine I liked." That wink emoji might as well have been a knife. I didn't get angry. I took screenshots, dated them, labeled them. I pulled location history from our shared Google account. Times when she said she was with her sister. She was 2 blocks from a hotel off Ponce de Leon. I called the hotel. Didn't even need to lie. Just asked if Claire Monroe had checked in on the night of the 12th. Yes, sir, 2 guests, Suite 402. I thanked them and logged the call. At home, I was polite, still, quiet. I didn't touch her. I didn't accuse. I didn't even sigh loud enough to give myself away. And Claire? She barely noticed. She was too busy being tired or prepping slides for a coaching seminar. I'd sit across from her at dinner, watching her scroll through her phone, her face lit by the glow of a life she thought I'd never see. I started going to bed earlier. I moved money slowly into a separate account under my name. I filed a change of address form with the post office, just enough to forward select mail to a P.O. box. I scheduled a consultation with Harold Whitmore, divorce attorney. 58, sharp suit, voice like a judge who's heard every excuse and isn't impressed. He read the prenup in silence, then looked up at me. She wrote this? Her idea, her clause. He gave a low whistle and leaned back. Son, you're sitting on a gold mine. I don't want gold, I said. I want clean. Clean, he nodded. You'll get that. You'll also get the house, the car, and that Vanguard account you two opened in 2019. He slid a legal pad across the desk. Now let's make a list. That night, Claire was on the phone again when I got home. She hushed her voice when I entered. Nothing unusual anymore. She ended the call quickly, smiled at me half-heartedly, and poured herself a glass of wine. Long day? I asked. Always, she said, walking past me toward the bedroom. I need a shower. I nodded. Take your time. She didn't know I had audio from the hallway camera synced to my phone. She didn't know I'd upgraded our Nest security system months ago when there were some neighborhood break-ins. She didn't know I had clipped the last 60 seconds of her call and emailed it to myself. No, he doesn't suspect a thing. He's just dull, always has been. But we have to be smart, Mark. If he ever found out, he'd use that stupid prenup and wipe me out. Bingo. The irony was, I wasn't even looking for revenge. I just wanted her to say it. And now, she had. Over the next 10 days, I executed the plan like I was prepping for trial. Legal documents drafted. Proof organized in folders. Print and digital. Joint credit cards canceled. Utilities scheduled for name transfer. Lockbox installed at my new rental. A 1-bedroom flat across town, small, quiet, clean. Therapist booked. Not for trauma, but for closure. I didn't tell anyone. Not my friends, not her family. I wanted zero noise. She still had no idea. One morning she even asked, "You've been really calm lately. Are we okay?" I smiled. "We're getting there." She kissed my cheek. The first kiss in months. The last thing I prepared was a meeting. Just me and her. In the kitchen. No lawyers yet, no fights. Just a table, 2 coffees, and a sealed envelope. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. I made pancakes. She came downstairs in a robe. "Wow," she said, raising an eyebrow. "Domestic moment?" I gestured for her to sit. She did. The folder sat in front of her. "What's this?" she asked. "A conversation," I said. "About Clause 17.4. She blinked. It took 5 full seconds for her face to shift. 5 seconds for the flush to leave her cheeks. I know, Claire." Her mouth opened, closed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't say how I knew. I just pushed the envelope toward her and stood up. "I'll be moving out by Tuesday. Everything's been arranged. The rest is in writing." She didn't speak. She just stared at the envelope like it was a time bomb. And in a way, it was. Except she wrote the code herself. The silence in that kitchen was thick. She didn't open the envelope. She didn't cry. She just sat there staring at it like it might bite her. I didn't say anything else. I walked upstairs, packed the last of my clothes into a duffel, grabbed my laptop and charger, and came back down. She was still at the table, coffee cold, face pale. I paused in the doorway, looked at her one last time and said, "I won't drag this out. You don't need to explain anything. I already know enough." She opened her mouth to speak, but I didn't give her the chance. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and drove to my new place in East Point, a small, one-bedroom apartment tucked behind a mechanic's garage. It smelled like fresh paint and solitude, and I liked it that way. The next few days were quiet. She didn't call, not at first. I think she assumed it was just a cooling-off period, that I was going to come back and talk it out, negotiate, maybe even apologize for snooping. But then the official letter from my lawyer landed at her door, hand-delivered. In it, formal notice of separation, invocation of Clause 17.4 with attached proof, notice of asset transfer per prenup, instructions for utility transition, inventory of what I took, nothing personal of hers, just what I legally owned. That night the phone rang. Claire. I didn't answer. She texted. I got your letter, Tom. Can we talk? I left it on read. 20 minutes later. You're just going to walk away like this? After everything? The next morning, she showed up at my new apartment. I didn't buzz her in. She waited outside in her car for almost half an hour, then drove off. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I just didn't want her tenderness anymore. Later that week, she called my best friend Nate. I hadn't even told him the full story yet, just that things were ending and I didn't want to talk about it. He told me she was sounding off balance, like she couldn't believe I'd actually followed through. She kept saying things like, "He's never like this. He's acting like a stranger. He always forgave me before." That was the part that stuck with me. Forgave. What was there to forgive if nothing happened? She finally got desperate enough to try one last card, the guilt trip. A week after the letter, I got an email. Subject, please, just listen. Inside, I made mistakes, but I didn't think you'd actually throw us away. We can fix this, Tom. We've been through worse. I felt neglected. I needed attention. That's all it was. I read it 3 times. She never said sorry. She never admitted what she did. She just reframed it, tried to pull me back into the narrative where I was the cold one and she was the victim of a lonely marriage. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to my attorney, then archived the message. 2 days later, she called again. I answered this time. Her voice cracked immediately. Tom, she said, I miss you. I messed up. I know that now. Please don't do this. Don't just walk away. We can go to therapy. We can fix it. I let the silence stretch before speaking. You trained me, I said calmly. She hesitated. What? You trained me, I repeated. To stop asking how your day was. To stop hugging you at night. To stop caring. Because caring made me feel stupid. You trained me to give up. That's not fair, she whispered. No, I said. It's accurate. She started crying. You're not even angry, she sobbed. You're just cold. I don't need anger, I said. I need peace, and you haven't given me that in a long time. Tom, please. You signed the paper, Claire, I said. You wrote the rules. I just followed them. I hung up, blocked her number. 2 weeks later, everything was finalized. The house? Mine. The joint investments? Transferred. The car? Still mine. She stayed with her friend for a while, tried to rally sympathy in her friend group. But when people found out why, when they saw the screenshots, the timeline, the way she deflected blame, most of them quietly stepped away. Claire didn't just lose a husband. She lost the advantage she thought she'd always have, control. 3 months went by. She didn't reach out again for a while. Maybe because she was embarrassed. Maybe because she still hoped I'd eventually cool down and come crawling back. I didn't. Instead, I built something new. My rental apartment wasn't fancy, but it was mine. The couch was secondhand, the walls were still mostly bare, and the fridge had only what I needed. But it felt peaceful. No tension. No silence filled with accusations. I got back into jogging. Early morning runs through the park with nothing in my ears except breath and heartbeat. I signed up for a woodworking class on Saturdays, met a few solid guys who talked more about tools than trauma. I reconnected with my younger sister, Started meeting my dad for breakfast once a week again. And slowly, without even trying, I became myself again. Then, 6 months after I left, a message from a number I didn't recognize. Hey, I know this is probably unwelcome, but I wanted to say I'm sorry, truly. I messed up, and I see that now. I've been doing a lot of thinking. If you ever want to meet and talk, I'd like that. No pressure, just closure maybe. I stared at the text for a while. She sounded calm, thoughtful, maybe even genuine. But it didn't matter, because I wasn't the same man who once sat across from her at that table, begging to be seen. I didn't need closure. I didn't need to hear the apology. I didn't need anything from her at all. So I replied with one line, I'm not who I was, and you're not what I want. Blocked the number, put the phone face down, and went back to carving the edge of a cedar coffee table with a hand plane. The sun was warm through the window. My playlist was on low, soft blues, nothing dramatic, just peace. People think revenge is loud, explosive, screaming in parking lots or posting cryptic quotes online. But real revenge is quiet. It's rebuilding a life you don't need to explain. It's becoming someone who doesn't answer when the past knocks. It's giving someone the silence they earned and letting them sit in it. That's what Claire will never understand. I didn't leave her because of the cheating. I left because she thought I never would. And now she knows I did.